listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm joined with Xi Earthstar Healer. She is the founder of Earthstar Academy, a soul healing technology and a comprehensive and dynamic training ground for lightworkers, starseeds, and indigos, providing multidimensional healing, training, activation, and mission support. Xi is an oracle of divine love and a wisdom keeper of original creation sciences. Through the arts of oracle transmission, singing, writing, and multidimensional energy work, Xi is guiding humanity back into the heart of creation by living a life of reverence, devotion, and higher purpose. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. Well, I love that you just read that so slowly. Like I'm just feeling like we're already grounding into such a steady place. I just love that so much.
Thank you. I love your work, and I am so excited to get to share this with our audience. I know that they'll love it too. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So, could you share a little bit of background on yourself and your spiritual journey with us?
Yeah, so I was born in China in 1994. I used to have very strange experience as a child, just communicating with my ancestors, and my mom used to tell me that I would write Taoist poetry when I was like 3 years old, sitting by the river about like the ever-changing quality of time, stuff like that. And they just all thought I was such a strange child, but I was also like really caring. Like if it was a really hot day, like it'd just be that kid that's like bringing ice water out for everybody. Um, but then when I started going to school, as the school is designed to do, it just snuffed out all of this magic that was in me, and so I just fell totally asleep until I was about 18 years old. My family immigrated to Canada when I was 9, and I had this very lightning speed awakening, really, where this voice in my ear was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "I don't know, China." And it was like, "Andromeda." And I was like, "Andromeda? Like, is that a place? Is that a thing?" So I went home and I just Googled like beings from Andromeda. And I found all this information about starseeds. And I was like, people think they're from outer space? That's crazy. But then I started reading through the articles and it's like, you've always been a sensitive child, you have love in your heart, and you want to help humanity. You feel like you're here for a purpose. And like the more that I'm reading them, I'm like, this is starting to feel weirder and weirder because I feel like it's describing, my weird self where I've always felt kind of out of place and strange, like I didn't fit into this world. And I was like, all of a sudden, these internet articles seem to understand me better than any other thing. So it just started making more and more sense. And so I continue to commune with this being, and I felt like my star family, like my star uncle or something, right? I just always felt such a familiarity and a benevolence and a peaceful love. Like he never tried to like urge me or scare me with anything. He never tried to like tell me things. He always just encouraged me to explore things. Like he would guide me to go to a public place and really perceive things. He'd be like, look, like, do you feel like people are happy? And I'd be like, no, people look like they're miserable. He'd be like, well, do you feel like this is how life is supposed to be? I'm like, no, it doesn't feel like how things are supposed to be at all. And I started to discover these innate feelings that are inside of me, like this remembrance that life is supposed to be beautiful and fun and full of love and, co-creation, and feeling this massive rift between what I remembered in my heart and what I was seeing on the outside, and feeling just such a deep desire to communicate what was inside of me to human beings so that everyone could just have a good time, basically. And so this being continued to guide me to perceive. One of my gifts is being able to see into the energy realms, multidimensional fabric of reality. And so he would just have me like look at things, look at the mall, look at the people, look at the TV. And I had this weird assignment in 11th grade in anthropology class where the assignment was like, if you were an alien coming to the earth and you had to study these things, and it was like dating shows on TV, like fast food, it's just like, and then I was like, wait, that's a little bit like too familiar. Like, I feel like this is like speaking to me. So
Right.
I really just started um, allowing this true consciousness inside of me that's just curious about everything. I feel like on Earth, humans have this deep program. They want to be right about stuff. They want to figure things out. They want to like know things. And like for me, like it's just so fascinating that there's so many different ways to look at things. There's so many different things that exist. There's so many ways that people look and think and perceive things. And I'm just allowing my consciousness to crawl into all these spaces, and slowly I began to discern, these mind control programs and viruses and multidimensional light body implants and imprisonment systems. And that's how I began basically for the last 7 to 10 years, really writing. And I was basically obsessively, this is the only thing I did, this is my autism. Like I was like, I'm obsessed with energy and writing it all down. And
Mhm.
that's how I created the Earthstar Academy essentially, um, to really help people heal from all dimensions of this prison system, which, a lot of people are awake to the stuff, right? They're like, oh, there's like a military and like there's a cabal and they're doing awful stuff. But like they don't realize that this stuff has been impacting our own consciousness since the time we were born. And even though we want to point our fingers and say, oh, war's going on out there and these people are being so awful, and then, we get in a fight with our partner and we're saying horrible things and we're in this war energy. And so we have to realize that all that crap, has entered into our own body and our own consciousness, our own emotions. And this is like the first battleground. And it's hard because there's even like so many spiritual leaders and, way showers and truthers out there that discovered like the mental information, right? Discovered the truth, but then they're going about the mission in this like inverted way where they haven't actually cleared the mentor program. They haven't come back into like union with God and embody just peace and love inside of their body. And so they don't realize that they're not really doing much by just yelling about all this stuff, because at the end of the day, understanding and witnessing these things, literally step number one, like we have to go inside to clear these energies from the inside of our body. There's a World Economic Forum guy, Noah Urari or something. He's like the advisor of Klaus Schwab. And I have this like quote from him where he's like, humans are now completely hackable and we have totally hijacked, what is he talking about? He's not talking about like the chips in the brain, which, could come later. He's talking about the programming that has been inserted into popular consciousness, beyond our parents' generation, right? Like,
Mm.
the TV, the radio, and all this stuff. And so, we've already been hijacked. We're already being plugged into this artificial AI mental prison. And, there's no amount of talking about this stuff that can free us from that. It's only about, extracting these things and rehabilitating our consciousness and light body and our spirit and coming back into the true, original, organic spark of unity and love inside of our heart, that we can kind of navigate through that.
Right, right. And I really love that not only do you help awaken, other star seeds and you do share a little bit about what's going on, you also give that space to help them, like, how can we actually ground this energy? How can we make change? How can we, navigate this? Because I think so much of it can lead to just like paranoia and disharmony and dysfunction if it's not being viewed through a grounded lens. So then they're like, oh, like there is a lot that could make you paranoid. Like when I'm in the records, like sometimes they're so chill about like talking about reptilians and stuff. And I'm like, oh, and but like I could take that and like go crazy. You know what I mean? Like I could be like,
Yeah.
there's reptiles and they're control like, and there's truth to it.
Babies.
There's truth to all of it. And I think it's necessary to bring awareness to it to a certain extent, but I do think it's important for people like you to be here to help guide because it can feel super disorienting and actually take us out of our physical body and like so much in the mind, which I think to a certain extent there's some, people out there that want that. They want you to feel, like you're schizophrenic and like, everyone like will start looking at you like you're insane, if you're not grounded about it. But I love that you give like this practical approach to here's our mission, here's what we're here to do, and it gives us like something to focus on versus just the war aspect, which we know is out there. And I feel like so much of this, I mean, it's like a tale as old as time. Like it's happening on Earth now, but it seems like when I'm in the records that this is not the first time. And we just keep coming back to it. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like this time we have like this opportunity to grow beyond some of, what happened in the past. Like people like you can start to channel the wisdom from the past and pull it into the present. And now we can say, okay, well, this didn't work last time. How can we try a different route? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are in a different time. The Earth is very special. And so, one of the things that we want to touch on was like the Emerald Covenant, which is
Mm,
really like what the Starseed mission is. Like a lot of Starseeds that are here on Earth right now are very ancient, advanced angelic beings who have connections into the universal Akash and the universal genetic DNA architecture. And we're essentially supporting the universe in completing one phase of its lifetime, which is this absolute free will experiment that the universe chose to go through. And it's actually not a uncommon process. It's like a teenage initiation, you know what I mean, for a universe, because when we begin to create creator beings, human beings that are imbued with the power of creation, that being will have to go through a process to learn about its capacity and the responsibility that it has. You know, with Uncle Ben saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, to think that a human being, you know, a little creature can be literally imbued with the power of creation that God has, to be imbued with all these qualities that God has. This is, you know, a lot of responsibility. And this is what the dragons used to teach humans. When human beings were first evolving into civilization, these dragon beings held these temples, held these spaces, and supported the human in anchoring our emerald crystal heart, which is this architecture of honor, respect, divine reciprocity, right? Right relationship with the earth and each other and civilization. And this is like the Christic heart template that Jesus was trying to teach us, and so many other masters throughout time. We realize that unless this light body component built into our light body technology is actually online, we will lose that kind of energy or that connection with the sacredness of life. And when that happens, you know, we can begin to utilize our body's innate connection with God and our body's innate ability to create in a way that is harmful, as we're seeing in the world right now. And so this has all been a part of the Earth's dream. It's been a part of the universe's dream because, you know, with a toddler, if you have a toddler, sometimes you just got to let the toddlers learn through experience. Like no amount of telling a toddler that like, don't do this, you will get hurt. Sometimes the toddler really needs just to learn from experience. And so that's really what humanity and life in this universe has been moving through. Because, you know, every civilization, every being is the universe incarnate in an individual. So it's all the universe learning from itself and its experiences, right? But at this point, I think we've learned enough. We're like, okay, I think we've learned enough from separation and killing and murdering and siphoning and all that stuff. Let's evolve into the next evolutionary state. What is that and how can we do that? Well, the next step would be absolute perfect divine will. When you think about it, it's literally like perfect God intelligence, like perfect creative intelligence. It means that every unique individual is in its highest expression of individuality. And the perfection of the system is that every single individual's highest expression is in perfect harmony with everything else. And imagine the amount of intelligence and creativity and like, you know, original intelligence is is not really too many words to describe it, but how much creativity and intelligence it requires for that kind of system to operate. So that's what we're moving into. The star seeds are here to kind of fulfill this destiny that the earth has to be a microcosmic, I call it like the teardrop earth. The teardrop earth is like this dream that God had to exemplify or experience this process of ascension in a micro fractal form. So we are a microcosmic fractal of the collective, of the earth, of the universe, right? Of the galaxy and beyond. And so all of these octaves of consciousness and universal body, like when something happens on a microcosmic level, and it's that microcosmic piece is completely aware of and connected to the cosmic whole, there's a ripple that goes out that influences and creates and initiates a process in the universal body. So essentially, that's what's happening in our individual ascension, right? Which is why it's so important for us to heal ourselves, because we're not going to be able to eradicate, war and all these horrible things if we're not kind to our own inner child, if we're not able to, be kind in disagreements with people, right? If we just want to go to war and prove other people wrong, that's an energy that's going to perpetuate separation and war. And so recognizing that we are, they say, the universe in a drop, and our energy and how we are healing our light body is literally directly impacting and a part of this prophecy that the earth is. And as we literally transform, the earth is like a petri dish. Every single distortion that we've ever had in the universe is here. That's why it's hella chaos. And there's a little bit of every, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, so I won't. But there's a little piece of everything on the earth, right? Like we've got human trafficking, pedophilia, freaking the military, and wars, and genocide, and every single thing that is horrible and evil is here. AI, right? This new threat. And so, but there's also every single lineage of star beings, also every single like cosmic lineage war trauma. As I'm sure you know from the Akash, there's like so much is going on, but we're all here at the same time, so we can all literally resolve all this universal karma. And
Mhm.
if we're able to do this on this earth, if we're able to actually land heaven on earth, because this is why people say, like, oh, I'm here to create heaven on earth, but it's not that simple, right? It's like all this stuff is unfolding. That's why, you with a false twin and you went through this thing, but turns out he like, kidnapped you that other lifetime and stole your DNA or whatever. Like, it's like that's just part of your soul mission in this lifetime. And as we're all coming into harmony, coming to evolution, returning to our original Christic template of divine love and honor, and we begin to recreate this as the foundation of the planetary consciousness, we're literally facilitating this on a universal level. So that is basically the Emerald Covenant, which is this promise that was made throughout the universe before the fall, that the fall is this intentional process, and no matter how far a being falls, at the end of the experiment, this is the love and the compassion of God, is that every single being gets brought back into God. And this is why, like, I'm not afraid of demons, not afraid of like any of these things, because I recognize that these are just the fallen parts of ourself, right? People are like demonizing like the dark mother or like the evil this and that. And it's like I see it as just pieces of ourselves that are like so traumatized and lost. And when we are in our pillar of divine connection and love, like everything literally just starts spinning back in harmony. And that's what we're here to facilitate on such a massive level. And it begins with ourselves.
Yeah, I love that explanation. Um, so do you think that every human on Earth has like this galactic lineage, or do you think that some of them originated here? I've always wondered because it seems like when I'm in people's records, they're almost always from somewhere else. Like I've yet to find someone that wasn't ancient as far as on a soul level, but
Yeah. So, I mean, every single soul came from source and had to go through a process of dimensionalizing to even get down here. So, yes, every single soul has that access. Now, some souls have been here on this earth for longer and have been trapped and going through this, reincarnation technology that is really severing them. Like the technology severs us from source, right? So eventually they just don't even remember, and the third dimensional technology is also designed to cap people at the 3D level and to keep their experience completely contained in the 3D. That's why we have science, right? Science is like, there's no such thing as souls, right? So now we have this propaganda that has brainwashed everyone to basically sever from their own higher selves. And it begins with a trauma at birth, like in the hospital and all this stuff. It's all intentional. It's all a system that is designed to sever human beings from their higher selves. And so I think through that and the generational trauma and the soul trauma throughout time, it's very difficult for a lot of souls to currently access their higher nature and their higher dimensionality. You know, the religious programming, the spiritual programming of the East, like things like, oh, like you can only maybe reach enlightenment if you meditate in a cave for the rest of your life. You know, it's like the subconscious inverted program that like enlightenment and your soul spark is something inherently outside of you that you have to work really hard for, when it's like when right, it's like holding your car keys in your hand and then looking for your car keys. You can't find it anywhere, right? Because it's literally right there, but they're like telling them that their soul's out there. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the hamster wheel that we're dealing with.
Right. And that's kind of where all the matrixy stuff comes in, is like it's veiled and it's hard to access. And it's there, it seems like throughout each generation there's like a new veil implanted.
Oh, it's getting
It's
worse and worse as their technology is getting more advanced. Like the teens nowadays, like I don't even know, like they're literal heroes, honestly. I was like, I don't know like what you guys are dealing with, but a lot.
right. And so it's interesting because it's like we're constantly having to clearing it all out is like one of the most important things. And I've had lifetimes where I've been like extremely religious and like devoted, and in this lifetime my soul's like, do not get stuck in that. Like honor, the ancestors, honor where we've come from. Like I have nothing against it, but it absolutely feels like it makes me feel like claustrophobic to think about being like stuck into one of these systems. And I think that there are little matrices within each one of them that we have to like open up and realize, oh wow, like this is really limiting my potential to only see myself through this one lens, or to view God or the soul as like something on the
Mhm.
outside, So let's talk a little bit about the multidimensionality. And can you briefly cover the 15 dimensional universal matrix? And how can we all tap into these different dimensions?
Yeah, so for me, it's not so mental. I'm not into mental ascension because usually, if it's a lot of information, it's part of the new age Luciferian programming, because it's making you think that just because you know something, that is somehow activated or embodied inside of you, and it gives people this sense of false spiritual superiority. And so for me, it actually does come back. You were mentioning about devotion. Like, it's so interesting because the false devotion and the false like soul traps of religion, it creates this like anti like inversion, right? Where we then rebel against it, but then it keeps us away from like the true energy of devotion, which is really just our heart's commitment to our soul's highest, to our mission, to all of creation. And I think it is important for us to hold commitment to something, because that is a Christic virtue of the heart. And so for me, everything is about the Christic architecture of the heart. Is about recognizing that the God world is a frequency. The God world is like beyond 12D, right? Where there are no distortions, it's the original creation, it's sometimes even outside of this universal body. And the frequencies there are just like pure love. And that love and reverence for all that is sacred. This is like what angels experience in their heart. And so for me, I try to live in accordance to those energies. When things happen in my life, I'm like, okay, how can I show up more patient? How can I be more loving? How can I dissolve division and come into understanding and weave the energy in a way where I'm resolving that karma? I am dissolving that friction. And I think that through that sensitivity process, you're going to start to evolve your subtle sense perception to be able to feel like the intelligence inside of your body, right? We're not just a physical thing. The body is also an interwoven fabric of energies. So your emotions, your past life energies, your intelligence, your consciousness, and all the dimensionalities are all inside of the body. And as you meditate, as you heal yourself, you're going to start to notice that there's more and more subtle frequencies inside the body. And actually, the higher the dimensions we go, the more subtle, the more information there is. And that subtle frequency, you can only get there when we start to refine the energy of our body. And that can only happen when we heal ourselves. It's not like if I tell you, okay, so there's 15 dimensions and every 3 dimensions is a frequency field. Like it doesn't mean anything because you're not having an experience of the embodied experience of connecting to those dimensionalities. So for me, in our academy, we don't even go into that until the intermediate and the advanced level because the foundations level is funny. Sometimes people are like, hey, I've been in this spiritual community for like 30 years. Like, can I just like skip over the beginner part because I think it's going to be boring? But then we say, like, no, like we were guided to establish this honor in our temple that everyone has to go through. Swipe on, swipe off. Like ancient times, you had to like climb up this massive mountain. Now, all I'm saying is please just go through the foundations level because they say masters are those who've mastered the basics. And all we're really doing in the foundations level is getting to know ourselves, which isn't actually the beginner level of New Age spirituality. Like you have no idea how many Starseed teachers, coaches, people that have schools, people that are teaching spiritual things come through the academy and they're like, wow, like I'm getting so many blind spots filled up because this is like so simple that you just skip over it, right? It's like it seems so simple that I'm like, oh, I have to like get really deep into my body's intelligence and recognize that my body is telepathic and that I can actually get all the answers that I want from the Akash of my body that is really like an oracle, like a crystal ball. Um, and from that place, you begin to experience these dimensionalities. Unfortunately, it's not a shortcut, right? Like people like the shortcut where I just tell you all the dimensions and then they get this mental shortcut where they think they know it, but then they realize that they can spend 10 years in that, like that matrix box, like you're saying. And they're like, wait, I actually have no idea what I'm talking about because I tried to skip the basics. Um, so yeah, I think energies are woven throughout the body, and your consciousness has the ability to perceive all the different frequency layers and densities of energy. And you learn how to do that by going within and communicating with the body and feeling it for yourself. And eventually, you'll begin to feel that there are different realms of consciousness in this world and a higher realms of consciousness that carry like pure, innocent, original love energy that is almost hard to access from this matrix. And this is where the real work begins. It's like, okay, we start to open that up and bring it into the body. And the more that we do that inside of ourselves, the more of a actually useful light worker we become. Because down here, if we don't have that activated connection to original pure intelligence, when we're doing energy work, we're really just like we have a dirty mop when we're just moving the dirt around, right? We think, oh my God, I can feel the energy I'm moving around. But really, the only thing that purifies and restructures is original consciousness from beyond the fall. And so this can only be accessed through our pure heart's devotion and intention to actually repair and heal ourselves and go through that process of mastery.
Right. I really love that. I love that you start with the physical, and I love to talk about all sorts of far out stuff on the show, but I always like to bring it back around to holistic health and caring for the body and accessing our creativity. And, this seems like preschool, okay? It's like, okay, we're gonna go stretch and we're gonna get our watercolors out.
We're going to be
And
nice to people on the internet, you know.
right. Yeah, we're gonna share our crowns with our neighbors. Um, but it really does, it starts there and all the mental information, it's like it's just it doesn't matter. Like if you're not here, then like there's nothing to connect all that information to, and it just stays like you can almost see it when you look at someone's energy field, like there's like this big cloud over the head, but there's no roots into the earth, and so they can't channel the wisdom through them. And when I'm in the records, so often they'll show me a picture of the person moving it all the way down through their feet.
Mm.
And they're like, as soon as you do that, you'll be able to integrate all of the stuff that you're sensing, but you don't know what to do with it because it's not embodied. And I love that you're like, we have to start here because it's so true. And I feel like that's the first issue with dysfunction is skipping over the health, and these people, they're still like drinking, like bad things that have all this like food coloring, and they're just like poisoning the body and
And
wondering
that's
why
all
their
that's all
meditations.
part of the warfare. I think that the body is like the body is where it all happens. The body is the magic sauce. Like the body is the holy grail. The body is your greatest gift, right? And the
Mhm.
whole system makes you feel like the body is ugly, the body is disgusting. You have to shed the body. You're trying to transcend the body, and it really is blocking us from this awareness that the body is what the demons want, right? So as long as you're severed from your body, they're like, "Oh, thank you," like open host, and that's
Yes.
the program. And so, understanding that there's a connection actually between your biochemistry and your hormone system and your spiritual experiences and these chemical warfare that is happening in the world. It is disrupting the organic processes of hormone balance, and at this point, we don't even know like what the original state of our hormone system is anymore because since we were born, they're feeding the kids like GMOs, corn syrup, and plastics and lead and all sorts of crazy stuff. And this is just the body is such a finely tuned divine instrument. And
Mhm.
this is kind of what we go through in the sixth course, which is 1.6 vessel optimization, where we go through all the organs and all the parts of the endocrine system. Is like sometimes people don't even know where their liver is. I'm like, how are you supposed to go on this, astral travel if you don't know where your liver is? Like some people
Mhm.
like have clients that are like, oh my God, like I've been just attacked by this entity for like 10 years. And then I'm like, no, that's just your liver.
Right.
And it's literally just like you're angry. That's why you can't get rid of it because it's literally like just your filtration system that also filtrates the energies that you consume that are possibly full of demons. So
Right. And it's like that sluggish, I think of Ferngully, like the slimy oil thing. And it's like, well, it's because when the liver's not filtering, it turns into ickiness. And that I could see how someone would think, oh, that's a demon.
yeah.
But it's
Mhm.
like, no, that's your own unfiltered old stuff that, wants to move through you.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I um really started tuning more into, like my natural essence and things like that and rooting into the body, I became allergic to like all of these foods. In my body, I started like listening to it and I'm like, why do we feel so sick? What's going on? And then I went and had like blood work done and like my body was like rejecting all of like the corn, which was in like everything, like the soy because it had the glyphosate, like every food I was allergic to when I like researched the food was like covered in toxic chemicals, like all the fish had like mercury and so I was like, it's weird because I'm like, I'm actually grateful that my
Yeah.
body was like,
Mhm.
we are not allowed to do this anymore. And it was like as I started stepping into it and tuning in, I did realize, okay, it's telling me it doesn't like this. It's telling me it really wants more of this. But then as I started altering my diet, I felt like I was tuning into the Akash even more. Like before I ever really knew what was happening, I was getting more downloads and it's like I could just like tune into the earth frequencies more and all that. And it really started with just eliminating some of the toxic foods, and like the fluoridated water and all this stuff. It's just like it was kind of simple, but it was hard because like I didn't understand it. There was no gurus like teaching, like detoxing and eating like, living foods and all that. It's like I had to learn it like one stage at a time, but
And it's even challenging to find. Like they make it really easy for us to just be constantly poisoned, don't they?
they really do. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that was just phase one of and like each time I would like learn something new, everyone would like isolate me more and they'd be like, oh no, now she's going to talk about the gluten, and I'm like, I'm not telling
I'm
you
just trying
anything.
to save your soul. Like, come on.
Right? It's like, I don't know. It's like I started repulsing people as I was like advancing and I don't know. I just felt like I started looking healthier. I started acting better. I started like channeling all this creativity. And then all of these people started to absolutely be like revolted by me. And I
Maybe
think
they're
it was
parasites.
right, right. Because they were like, oh, I could actually, restore my vitality. And
Right.
now
And
I know
the
that's an
parasites are
option.
like, no, you
Right.
can't.
Right. So I don't know. There was a point where I'm like, I almost got a little sad because I felt like I was losing all of these connections just based on the fact that I was like raising and not from an egotistical point, like it wasn't like a mental thing. It was like I was actually becoming a healthier being. And then I lost like the entire foundation of people that I had grown up with, you know. Um, but it's interesting because I slowly started like attracting other beings like me. And I'm assuming that they're all, you know, the Starseeds, like the people that similar to me had to run into these same like speed bumps. And then we were all like, oh, we're Star family. Like we go way back, you know, but it's like they understood me way more than anyone that I had actually known like from my childhood. And but yeah, I think all of us go through this like isolation phase where we feel like we're losing touch with people,
Mhm.
you know? And so I think some of us, like, that's where it can be like kind of lonely. And that's where the internet is nice because we can connect to these other
Yeah.
people having these similar experiences and we don't feel so alone, you know, as we're literally like raising ourselves up. So,
I love that this conversation has brought it to this point because, it has been such a lonely path in that way because I found myself that I needed to like constantly be leaving people because I'm just like insatiable. Like I'm here to ascend and I'm here to grow. Like I might levitate at one day. I don't know. But like whatever it is, I'm here for it. Like whatever it is that my soul signed up for, like I'm here for that. But on my journey, I've noticed that like, there's like people that are willing to go this far and then people that are willing to go this far. I'm like, how about levitating? They're like, no, I don't think I'm gonna go there. And so then, I have to like move out of that again. And it's now
mhm.
been 12 years. I woke up at the end of 2012 and I finally have found my soul people. And so this is just to tell you to not give up and not settle and just follow your heart because was it worth it? Yes. Was it hard? It was. It broke my heart so many times because I'm like this little Cancerian. I just love, you know, loving people and taking care of people. But then, it's like in order for us to feel even fully nourished and fully seen and fully just like feel like we're with the people, we have to know ourselves. And in order to know ourselves, we just have to like follow our own way and just trust that eventually you will find your people. Eventually you will find those people that you're just like, I can't even believe you exist because we're like, you know, so one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and it is even the people that we outgrow, they will make it at some point. It's like we're all at different levels, but we don't want to limit
Yeah.
ourselves, you know,
Right.
staying stuck in, you know, level 3 when our soul is definitely designed for more than that in this particular lifetime. So I always try to tell myself it's not like I'm abandoning them. I'm just, you know, I'm moving on and then they can catch up to me later.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's important that we don't just wait around for everyone else to, you know what I mean? It's like a soul, like
Yeah.
a personal led experience. So
Yeah.
I don't know if my soul's telling me that I need to move along, then that's what I do. And I don't think that it's like we're abandoning people, you know, but there is a part of me that's got an abandonment wound that's like, but I need to stay here forever and make sure they're drinking water and
How are they going to learn how to drink water by themselves if you keep telling them to drink water?
right. Right. Like,
That's like a
yeah.
mother wound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a whole poem on that.
Oh.
So so let's talk a little bit about the dragons. We haven't covered this yet, but I'm noticing them everywhere. I mean, even people that are not, you know, aware of the dragon energies are they're drawing them. I'm seeing them in all these people's records. Their dragons are wanting me to tell the person about them. And it's like almost every person that I root for has a dragon that's popping in. So what is going on? Is there a reason why they are making themselves so known right now? And how can we work
Yeah.
with the dragon energy?
So the dragons have been working with humanity since the dawn of time. Like they are the guardians of the earth. And I would say that Mother Earth is herself is a dragon. Like if you just go out into nature, you're gonna see her transform into like a giant serpent, anaconda, dragon everywhere. She's just got that. It's like her life force energy. She's like an original creation goddess. And the dragons are the primordial manifestations of individuality. So the first ever kind of individuated bodies, God incarnating into physicality, the first ever bodies were dragons and whales, and then eventually like stingrays and bodies that are very like glidey, bodies that are
Mhm.
very easily travelable, so if that's a word. And so, yeah, the dragon's role is to facilitate and to be a guardian of the timeline of the procession of the evolution of events and species and the process of evolution on planets, because in the beginning of a planet, there's always kind of a grand plan. There is an intention, there is a design, there is a adventure that the dream is dreaming into. And so, yeah, on this earth, humans were meant to be populated here, humans imbued with the power of creation, humans that are meant to embody the qualities of God. I mean, it's really profound stuff. Like, this is like we're talking about avatars, right? The path of avatars, and how the avatars are really here just to show us that this is what is possible. Like, this is what humans are evolving into. And so the dragons have always held that knowing, held the knowledge of how these bodies are meant to operate, the meridians, the energy body, how they correspond with the earth, how the meridians grow and evolve and develop over time, and how it connects to the universal tree of life. All of this information is stewarded by the dragons and taught to humans through the dragons, which is why in every ancient culture you'll always hear about the serpent goddesses, the dragons. And in the Celtic times, there were, ancient dragon teachings, Celtic churches, and the Roman church found this very they were very threatened by people's connection to the earth and to this knowledge, of course. And so they started creating all sorts of smear campaigns about Mary Magdalene and about dragons, about women and about dragons. So there's definitely a connection there, right? It's like slay the dragon. No, it's we befriend the dragon and we almost tame the dragon with our honor, with our embodiment, with our love and devotion. We befriend that energy that is so primordial and powerful that it will only befriend you if you're upholding that level of honor. And so I think at that time, there were these massive trees that lived on the earth in the ancient Celtic, ancient Chinese, and these ancient dragon lineages. There were these giant mother trees. On the top of the trees were these their own ecosystems where they're these cloud temples, and that's where the dragons like to live. And a lot of these dragons would come and teach the humans about, for example, traditional Chinese medicine. It's kind of all these teachings have gone through the fall, right? So now a lot of the teachings have gone very patriarchal, very disconnected, very mental, very, lacking that connection to the feminine essence. And this is due to the distortions of the teachings, wanting to take humans away from their original memory. But at that point, um, humans were really deeply connected to all of that, and also to our own destiny of where we're going, and had a deep relationship of common respect, of learning from the dragons. Eventually, these invading forces were very threatened by human connection to their own inner knowing, and so they cut down these trees and went on these genocidal campaigns to kill the original families, the ancient Celtic churches, the ancient Chinese families. Of course, it's still going on with Native Americans. And, it's really been one long story. It didn't start with the colonization of America. It began really, really a long time ago. Probably the Celtic lineages are some of the oldest genocides that have happened. And so almost every human being on earth is carrying like a genocide trauma. And that's why humans are very afraid of connecting to spirituality as well, because it's a very strong crucifixion program and broadcast like in the earth. Is very subconscious. It's like, if you remember these teachings, we will kill you. If you start to talk about these things, we will kill you, right? But it's like, um, when those trees were cut down, the dragons had to go to sleep. Sleep in they went to sleep in different creatures and stones and mountains, and also deep in the earth's crust. And they're just waiting for the right cosmic time to fully awaken and come back into union with humanity and work together to basically move humanity into this destined timeline of heaven on earth. And that's basically what's happening right now over the last started probably around 2012, but really hit like a new energy peak in 2017, and really started kicking off in the last couple of years, where the dragons are really waking up, and now they're really awake and they're looking around. They're like, what the hell is this? So they're kind of pissed. They're like breathing dragon fire. They're like, you're not doing this to Earth's children. You're not doing this to the Earth. You're not doing any of this. And they're finding the human beings who are already embodying those qualities I was talking about, like purity, generosity, willingness to be of service to something greater than themselves. As the dragons awaken, we're going to see this rebalancing of wealth and power because there's been a lot of misuse of spiritual power, as we have seen, right? People that become kind of famous and they just lose track of what they're doing because all of a sudden they're better than everyone. And then that religion program comes out where they're now imposing their beliefs onto people. And, like this moves us back to the foundations level, right? They just haven't gone through the deprogramming of the colonization and the slavery programs. And so the dragons are looking for like the angels that are like, oh no, like I couldn't be powerful. Like I'm not ready to like lead, but like they're just so pure in their heart. Sound familiar? There's just so many like pure angels who are just like feeling bullied by these energies of people that are like, yeah, I'm so important. I'm here to be important. And the dragons are like, yeah, like I think I'm gonna find the people that have really pure hearts and just imbue them with power.
Mhm.
And that's basically actually what is happening in my upcoming course, Womb Wealth Creation, because so I actually come from this original Asian dragon family, the emerald dragon, which originated in like the Indonesia kind of jungle area. And this was also the same lineage that Kuan Yin incarnated into, but it was not the only one. So that's why people feel a lot of Kuan Yin energy in me. She's like actually an ancestor. And people are like, "Are you Kuan Yin?" I'm like, "No, I'm not Kuan Yin. I'm Z." So, um, but there's also like the origination of ancient Chinese medicine also came from these dragons, which is again why my teachings are so deeply embedded in soma and body intelligence, because this is just the stuff that my body is carrying. My body's like, I'm here to share this. And so, yeah, these dragons are here to basically imbue this original creation power into the bodies of people that are ready to hold that power with integrity and honor, and to do it in the way of original creation, do it in the way of the original dragon temples. And I think this is what trips up most light workers. Is like you don't want to get rich because you're scared that you're gonna, get distorted, or like people are gonna just judge you and think you're evil. But the thing is that you're actually the one that needs to get rich. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's like the people that don't want it. And so when I was 18, God would show me like, you have to like be seen and you're going to be facilitating the movement of billions of dollars. Like I was like, I don't care about money. Like I have one pair of shoes. And I still have one pair of shoes, by the way. I just really don't care about that stuff. And then God was like, well, we have to build 200 ascension centers to heal the light body of the earth. And then they're like, that's what you need all that money for. And I was like, okay, I'm in. Because like when it's like, I don't want a car, I don't want a watch, I don't need any of that stuff. So I'm like, why do I need money for it? And then God was like, well, how about rescuing the children? How about building these Aurora Earth Grid Ascension Centers that are going to be built in the most immaculately beautiful architecture ever? Like, how many people have dreams to have a healing center like that where they can facilitate bioregenesis for humans on a very cheap or even free level? Well, you're going to need to know how to channel creation energy and embody confidence and courage and power inside of your body in a way that feels safe and divine and holy and sacred inside of your body. So you're probably feeling that dragon energy coming through me right now. I'm
Yeah.
currently pregnant with a baby boy. He
Mm.
is bringing back like the original divine masculine template, like the original king consciousness.
Mm.
And basically, every time I'm pregnant, I'm guided to open a womb temple space because my womb is very open. And this is a time when my children, who are my ancient ancestors who studied with the dragons, can channel those teachings through in the most clear and undistorted way, right? Because they're still on the other side and they're streaming it through the womb. So
Mm.
basically, my son and I are channeling these teachings for women to embody the inner king, the confidence, the self-worth, the taking back of our power and applying it in a way that's going to help us save the world, essentially. So, yeah.
I love that so much. So, the workshop that you're doing, Womb Wealth Creation, the dragons come into that, right? So they're guiding the process.
Yeah, I would say that these are like the ancient dragon teachings. They're translated dragon scrolls. They are how humans are meant to co-create with the earth. And by the process of you learning how to create wealth and success and power in this way, your body's actually healing the collective consciousness. Your body's actually healing the earth. This is so much more than you just getting a bunch of money, even though you're gonna end up with that so you can also heal the earth. It's multidimensional. It's happening in all these other dimensions and it's happening in your physical body on the earth. And the process of you reclaiming that and actually initiating that, and then really moving forward. Like I collect. I guess land always talks to me. The first piece of land that I found was in New Mexico, and when this voice guided me there, um, in 2013, when I woke up, right, that voice was like, "You're from Andromeda." That voice
Mhm.
eventually led me to this property in New Mexico. And when I got there, the man that was there I was telling him how I'm from Andromeda. They're like, "Oh my God." So the man that bought this property, he died in March of 2013, which is when that voice first contacted me. Okay. And he said his whole life that he is from Andromeda and that he's meant to they were trying to create a starseed mystery school. And so he said, like, one day this little Chinese girl from Andromeda is going to come and she's meant to like continue this work of our family, essentially. So when I got there, he was actually like, "Oh my God, you're here." Like, what? So they had this whole that his name was Stuart, the man that died, that my Andromedan uncle. He left, he was a school teacher in California. He actually came up with this whole new way of supporting like autistic children in the school board in California that is still implemented to this day, which was amazing. So he's like in education of special children. But he left me his retirement fund, which by the time I got there, it had already mostly been eaten up, but there was just enough money in there for me to get like a down payment on a little prefab home on that property. And, that's where I initiated this first level of my training of having a telepathic relationship with land and the destiny of land and these Aurora Ascension Hub places where eventually we're going to be able to increase the dimensional frequency of that property so much we're going to be able to pierce through the frequency fence and basically see our star family and have contact
Mm.
experiences. And so then other pieces of land started showing up as well because a lot of these properties, they need someone who have this level of awareness to actually steward them. So if you
Mhm.
know that you're here to create a health, an ascension hub or a healing center, but the land just hasn't come, it just means that maybe you still have to activate this level of awareness. And this is kind of the intermediate level curriculum of my academy. I show people how to activate these levels of awareness to um, find and connect and be, just a capable steward of these very special land, like, very special star children. And then we learn how to make the money through healing the world, through being of service, through being in integrity, to actually, steward these lands and build these immaculate new earth cities on them.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I had like chills so many times while you were telling that story. It's just amazing how it's like when we activate and we're really aligned with our mission that things just start opening up for us. And it can go so many ways. Like sometimes like I'm just like blown away by what spirit gives me or these people that spirit sends me and I'm like, wow, like this is amazing. But I really do feel like that's the whole thing, like activating your mission and starting to align. Like it becomes important because that's when you start pulling in everything that is like resonating with you. And I feel like your workshops and things like that, it helps people tune into that field and then they're able to really start doing that work as well. And
I love what you just said there, and I just want to bring it back to the fact that you just said, like, the God is just bringing you these like amazing experiences and people, and you're not sitting around with vision boards. And you're like, all right, like here's all the stuff I'm gonna get from God, right? And like, that's the key. Is like, I look around my life, it's just filled up with all these blessings, and like all I'm focused on is how can I serve? How can I show
yes.
up? How can I heal myself? And this is the best thing. It's like you don't have to worry about what you're gonna get because God is going to bless you in ways that you can't even imagine. Like you can't even come up with the things that you want to manifest that are what God wants to give you if you just hold up your end of the bargain and become a trusted one of God. Become
Mm.
someone that God can trust. Become the character and the personality and the emotional safety that God can actually trust you with big pieces of his plan. And that's the secret key to literally everything.
Right, right. And there's times, where I have to practice more patience, and that's where that devotion and all that comes in because I really do trust that it's all in divine timing, like every single thing. Now, this has taken me a long time to really step into this, but even what feels like I'm backtracking is never actually backtracking. And it's like reserving my energy. So it's like we
Yes.
have to take a pause because now there's these things outside of you that have to happen. And you have to be present in your body, do the work, do the daily stuff, eat the good food, take care of yourself. But,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes when we're seeking and we're trying to force it, we end up like draining our vitality. So now it's like and I love being in the records because the records reassure me like this is a time to retreat or whatever. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Because I
That
probably
is
would have
deep
tried to.
wisdom right there.
Right. Yeah. Because like we do, I think so many of us, like we want to force it. We want to keep moving. We want to keep moving. But there is like the inhale and the exhale. And
Mhm.
um, there's certain things that other people are doing. And so it's like we rest and then the other people are working in those phases. And then when we reconnect, they rest. And so it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like the energy is distributed, and we have to trust that sometimes we're not supposed to be making all these actions, that we're actually supposed to just be present. And
Yeah, it's like
so
the
that's a
process of learning deeply listen, which I think is something that you probably know how to do very well because like tuning into the records, tuning to other dimensions is really just a process of getting really still and like not really doing anything and like listening, deeply listening with all of your ears, right? And
hmm
so I think this is like one of the things with over mentalizing is that like we just start thinking that and I call this trying to do God's mission without God, where
hmm
you're like trying to like figure it out and get it done and do it yourself. And really, like God is like more about really being able to tune in to the plan and resting in that void, right? Resting in the true primordial divine feminine so that when it's time, you've got all of the quanta to like birth the new thing. And it's this hierogamic divine union kind of co creation that happens. Um, Such a magical process.
right. I love that you're bringing in the feminine because when we think about yin, there is sometimes a stillness to yin, but it's also magnetic. So it's like it doesn't have to force everything. Like it's drawing it. It's drawing it in where yang is more like let's take action, let's make big things happen. But like with yin, it's like a different type of energy. It is that divine mother, and we look at the earth and like she doesn't have to like overanalyze anything. She just grows.
Right.
She's just, it's just all happening. And
Mhm.
I don't know. It's like the more we tune into her, the more it's like okay to slow down and follow her rhythms, like where I'm at, it's winter, and I'm like having to really slow down.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, if Earth is having, she's slowing down, like I need to slow down. I don't need to be trying to be
Exactly.
ambitious right now and like going out here and like trying to save the planet. No, I need to retreat, and go within right now because that's what my divine mother is showing me, So I feel like as women, it's really important that we give ourselves that space because if we try to pretend like we're men and on this like more 24-hour cycle, we will deplete ourselves. So it's like we have to give ourselves certain spaces within like certain parts of our cycle. And, you know, it's just
Yeah.
like a lot of the teachings I feel like are geared towards the masculine, which it's all about balancing it, but we can't like, forget that we are, feminine beings and we operate. Our cycles are just a little bit different and more tuned in to nature cycles. So not the sun
I'm
cycle.
absolutely with you there. I
Yeah.
feel like this balance is so important because, this is why the inner healing is important, right? In my courses, we break down like healing the inner feminine, aligning the inner queen, and then healing
hmm
the inner masculine, aligning the inner king, and then bring them together. Because, if either of them are wounded, we're going to just not know how to wield these energies. And this is really the teachings of the dragon and the white tiger, which is like the tantric teachings of the ancient Taoist dragon families that I'm drawing this wisdom from. And, funny enough, my daughter was born the year of the water tiger, and my son's going to be born the year of the emerald dragon. And he's
Wow.
sharing with me that, and when I was pregnant with Kara, the teachings that were coming in were like so about like healing the body and reclaiming our sexuality was like so deeply feminine. And with him, he's just like, all right, ladies, like you've got an inner masculine, you got an inner
Mhm.
king. And that's the thing is like sometimes there's such funny distortions and imbalances where like I found recently there's like a trend where it's like because we were so tired of being in the patriarchy, we're like soft girl everything. Like I just want a man to take care of me. I'm gonna be like a housewife, and we're like fetishizing that, you know? And it's like at the same time, like I'm really here to support like the women that have medicine inside, the women
Hmm.
that have gifts inside. And if we're too much in our feminine and our masculine's not there, we're like insecure, we're not confident, we feel unworthy. And that's
Hmm.
when we're not honoring our feminine actually. That's an amazing story of like, when I gave birth to my daughter, I also birthed the Earthstar Academy, which needed me to record like 500 modules. We did like 100 live calls, and I was like a mother that was, nurturing a newborn, and by all measures of natural rhythm, I should have been in bed with that baby for, many months, but that's not what God asked me to do. And for a
Hmm.
long time, these teachings, like kind of polarity teachings, they made me feel really ashamed of myself. I was like, oh my God, like, am I doing it all wrong? Like, should I just like be more chill? And then finally, like, I'm here. I arrived at this like most incredible, beautiful home. Also, I'm from Canada, so the snow was like, and I realized last winter that in order for me to work, like if God wants me to work through the winter, I'm gonna need to be somewhere where it's not winter. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
if I need to like follow the rhythm and God is asking me to like do this, I'm gonna have to be somewhere else. Like that's just like my inner masculine was like, let's figure this out. Like, what are your needs? What are God's needs? Let's make it happen because God wants your needs to be met and God wants you to feel taken care of. And like, I didn't look for this home. It wasn't even there on Airbnb, like all those years that we've been coming to this location. But just like the most immaculate house just appeared. And I'm waking up every morning feeling like I'm literally in a dream. And I realized that like I've been shaming my inner masculine for like literally making my feminine's dream come true. Like
Mm.
my inner feminine just wanted to serve. She just wanted to help the starseed. She wanted all of her knowledge to be made into these sections that people can easily digest. And my inner masculine was like, "All right, honey, like that if that's what you want, we're gonna make this happen. But it's gonna be hard for the next 2 years. Like you're gonna go through some discomfort. You might feel a little shitty sometimes, but I'm not gonna I'm gonna stay in tune with you. I'm gonna do what it takes for us to get there. And that's the inner king. The inner king isn't like, okay, like, oh, I'm gonna just chill. Like when there's a mission, when there's service, when God asks something, like, okay, it might hurt. I might have to walk for 5 days, but like then we're gonna be good. We're gonna be in a place where our whole family's taken care of and we're in a different financial situation. Our mission is going, and then you can chill. So you can chill even harder. Like now you can get massages. Now you can get a fancy rose oil because that makes you feel even more feminine. Couldn't afford that before. And so I couldn't even my masculine couldn't give that to my feminine
Mm.
for her to feel fully nourished. And a lot of people will always like, well, isn't that what men are for? It's like, well, it just depends on your path. Because for me, I'm here on an avatar path. I'm here to be a star seed, and every single star seed is a 12-stranded being. That means you have balanced inner feminine and masculine energy. You're not here to just live on an apple orchard like that one lifetime I had when I was just acclimatizing to human life. I just lived on an
Hmm.
apple orchard. I had a beautiful husband. He took care of me in every single way, and I was very peaceful life. This life is not that. I'm not here for that. I'm here to experience the peak of my infinite creative potential, which can only happen if I continue to expand my feminine and masculine, continue to
Hmm.
create this basically a free energy technology. And this level of embodiment is how we're going to save the world. We think like, how are we going to create a world organization? My womb temple project is called Womb Health Organization. It's
Hmm.
override to, the other WHO. That's the fake WHO, because the Womb Health Organization actually will heal the world. Because when all women are in the intelligence of the womb, the world will be healed. But yeah, it's all about just figuring it out for yourself. It's like, what are you here to achieve, right? What's your legacy? What is your life's work? So many of the women that I work with have like massive dreams. They're like, I'm here to change the face of how women give birth. I'm like, yeah, that's epic. That is an amazing destiny to have for yourself. Is it just gonna happen? No. Hell no, it's not just
Right.
gonna happen.
Right.
So, but in that process, that magnetism, it brings the people that you need. It brings the resources that you need. It brings the guidance and the support, right? So it's like it's that both that we're embodying that's actually going to take us to that planetary leadership kind of
Mm.
level of mastery on this situation.
Right, right. So it's like we bring it to us, but then we have to also take action. And that's where it's like the yin and the yang. It's like you don't want to be just one. It's like embodying both. And the more I studied mythology, I've really, really loved the Shiva and Shakti myth. Like it just, and it's like he's the masculine, she's the feminine, and they're actually like one being. And then they keep reincarnating in all these different forms. And I was like, this is us, though. These myths that we
Yeah.
read that feel weird and far out. And I mean, I think some people take them so literally that they miss that it's like this is an
Yeah.
activation within us. Like we are Shiva and we are Shakti. And when we're not together, when then one's asleep and there's no action. And it's like, but when they come together, that's when the dance
Yeah.
starts. And it really is about balancing both of those polarities, which I feel like is hard to do here because we're so divided.
Yeah.
But I love that your work helps people find that center and like harmonize, the opposing forces, on multiple levels.
I mean,
So
that's
your
such a
work,
deep conversation in and of itself, right? Like the
right.
heterogamic split is a part of the split technology. The split of the masculine and feminine principle was like an extraordinarily painful spiritual trauma that is a planetary control technology. Like people think that the patriarchy is men harming women and men, it was all the men's fault and they're controlling us. Well, even that narrative, like that trauma is the victim victimizer program, that in itself is what the technology wants. It wants us to feel scared of men and hateful towards men, and that men did all this because it wasn't the men that did that. The men didn't come up with the virus. It was an interdimensional planetary control system that used the men to harm the women to create that split. So when we
Hmm.
can transcend that polarity, as you're saying, like that, like fighting like amongst ourselves and realize that we've all been traumatized just differently. We've all been programmed just differently because for a true divine masculine, like the only thing that gives them fulfillment is to actually be of service to the
Hmm.
earth, to women. For them to harm a woman, it is such a deep level of spiritual pain that they
Hmm.
are enduring under this control system that they're being abused by, basically.
Hmm. Absolutely.
When we heal these energies inside of ourselves again, we're actually bringing back an energetic blueprint that the earth and the collective consciousness can use to, bring this energy of union back into the earth. And, when we come into a divine union with our partner, this is actually also how we call in our true partner, right? We find that true healing with our inner masculine. We find our respect and love and honor for him inside of ourselves so that when he comes, we don't step into like the mother archetype, right? We don't step into the wounded maiden archetype. And we're actually showing up these women that say, oh, there's no good men out there. Well, how much work have you done to evolve your maiden consciousness and to heal your wounding with men? Because if you haven't done that, the good men are repelled by your energy. Like you're not in
Hmm.
the category of good women to those men. So, just put a mirror up and say, okay, when we start doing our work, I mean, my husband, he's immaculate. So, and I know so many amazing men out there doing the work, and they're saying, where are all the women at? Where are all the women that
Right.
aren't prissy princesses that are expecting them to be their puppies, essentially? You know?
Right. Right. It takes work on both ends, for us to come together and to create a healthy union, because if both parties aren't doing their side of it, then it's just going to be dysfunctional, and that just creates even more in the collective. So yeah, I think so many people are like seeking their other person, and I'm like, you have to, like, they'll come to me for a reading, and I'm like, everything is telling me that you have to do more inner work. Like, I'm really sorry. I don't, it's not going
I'm
to be like
sorry.
next week
That's the
you're twin.
shortcut, though. That is the shortcut.
Right. Which is it's hard, to help guide people out of that way of thinking, because they do want me to give them some really easy answer. And I'm like, you have to do the work. Like your soul is asking me to tell you to do more internal reflection right now. And that once you do that, then you'll be more open. But yeah, it's really hard. I feel like patience is something that we have lost with this like instant gratification of like the internet, and everyone's like, well, I can go to online dating site. And I'm like, you can, but you're gonna have a lot of
Karmic.
Yeah,
processes,
you're
possibly.
gonna traumatize yourself probably in the meantime, like when you could just be doing the inner work.
Mm.
But yeah, so um, how can people, sign up for this workshop that you've been talking about, and what can they like expect, to gain from doing it with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on earthstar.academy on all social media like YouTube and Instagram. I have a lot of free content. I have like 50 different podcasts and workshops, hour-long transmissions on YouTube. So, I have a big support system, guided meditations, all sorts of stuff available for free on YouTube, Earthstar Academy. And then for this course is at wombhealth.org/wealth. And this is a 12-week container that begins on Chinese New Year of the Emerald Dragon, February 10th. And geez, what can people expect? I mean, in past womb healing containers, I've had people's menstrual pain completely cleared. They like take medication for decades, right? They're just like passing out because of the pain, and through the container, it's completely gone. I've had people restore from infertility. They now have a baby in their hands. It's so beautiful. And I have people have tumor disappeared. I've had people, I mean, the lady that just joined the mentorship last week, she went from having no clients and was horrified of being broke to getting 10 new clients in a week. So
Mm,
it's all about the energy shift. And I'm not saying like I'm some miracle doctor. I'm perfectly aware of the fact that I'm not doing anything. What I'm really doing is broadcasting a frequency of truth, frequency of what embodied power and self-love and mission and confidence and love for the body, connection with the body, love for the womb, like grounded as a woman that's grounded in the womb consciousness. I'm really just broadcasting that medicine, right? And when a woman's body feels that and they begin to embody that themselves, they're creating the energetic shifts, creating those miracles in their life. Like you're going to be the one that's tasting the fruit of how powerful you are, right? You're going to be creating the healing. Your body is the one that's facilitating the miracles in your life. And so I'm really here to facilitate, it's really a miracle medicine container. Um,
mm,
not like one or two stories. I have like over 100 testimonials, right? Like I've had 1,000 women come through these courses. And so I don't even take credit for them because my babies, I channeled them from my children. So I'm just here. I'm just here going along for the ride because it's transformed my own life.
mhm,
I used to live in our RV just a few years ago. I was making $600 a month. And then I became pregnant with my daughter, and she taught me all these things. And now I have 3 properties in Canada and the US and now Costa Rica. And really all this land that is like asking me, right, in sacred honor to be their steward. And like land that I go there and I just start weeping because I just feel like so much moving through me. And, all of that was made possible through all of these teachings that I'm sharing. So it's definitely coming from a very authentic and beautiful place. And I think you'll feel in your body if this is going to be something that is life changing for you.
mm. I love that, and I'm so grateful to have people like you that are holding these spaces for many of us as we move through these processes, as we expand and grow and work through some of the fears that, are kind of limiting us from reaching our full potential. And so I'm really grateful for you and your work, and it's so wonderful. And you have so much that we didn't even cover. You do the Starseed Mission podcast. So if anybody wants to explore even more on some of the topics that we just lightly touched on today, then that's a good start. But I'm just really honored to have you here, and
Thank you so
I'm,
much.
yeah, very grateful for you and all of the beauty that you bring into this world. So thank you.
I'm excited. The dragons are ready to get this party going. It's time for heaven on earth to come and let's get moving.
Yes, yes. I love that. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And thank you all for tuning in. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.